And so a compound inequality has two words. Has an and, or it has the word or. So and or. That's what you need to remember. And so first of all, we're going to talk about and. When you hear the word and, that means intersection. Example, if I say you're wearing a t-shirt and jeans, that's what you're wearing. You can't wear slacks, okay, because those aren't jeans. A t-shirt and jeans means you are wearing both a t-shirt and a jean. Both things are true. And so there are two ways we can graph an and statement. Okay, we can either see an and statement written this way, or we can see the same statement written this way. Now, I'll be honest with you, you're going to like the bottom one. Okay? The top one, it has a little bit more steps involved, but you will like the bottom one because the bottom one is a little more straightforward. So real quick, what I'm going to do, since I noticed the top inequality has two parts, I'm going to graph each of those parts. Okay? So notice here I've got 3 lines. Okay, so the first line, I'm going to graph x is greater than or equal to 1. On the next line, I'm going to graph x is less than 5. And then on the final one, I'm going to graph their intersection. Okay? So x is greater than or equal to 1. You all should be able to do that. Okay? What that means is I'm going to put a closed circle on 1. And which way am I going to shade? To the right. Good. Okay? Now the next one, x is less than 5. What am I going to have? Open circle on 5, shade to the left. Now my final answer, or my intersection of the two, is where both of the top 2 lines are shaded. So real quick, let's look at the left arrow. Is the left arrow shaded on both lines? No, because it's not shaded here, right? Where do I start where both lines are shaded? What value? 0, both lines are shaded?
2.
2? What about 1? Yeah. Would you agree that both lines are shaded at 1? They start at 1. That's where I see both purple and light blue. Okay. At what point does it stop where I don't have both lines shaded? 5. And at 5, notice I have an open circle on the blue. So I'm going to have an open circle on my final answer. That's how you would graph the top one. The bottom one is a little bit easier, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. On the bottom one, I only need 1 line. Oh, let's put 3 in the middle. There you go. 3, 4, 5. So on the bottom inequality, I'm going to look, and this value here says 1. And then I'm going to look at the inequality right after it. That has an equal to sign. Equal to sign means you do what with the dot? Closed. So I'm here at 1. I'm going to put a closed dot. Okay. The next value I'm going to look at is the 5. And I'm going to look at the inequality right next to the 5. Does that have an equal to sign? So I'm going to use an open dot. And since x is in between those 2 values, that's all you're going to do. See, that one's a little easier. Okay? So anyway, a lot of people like that one. So let's go ahead and look at what we're going to be solving today. It says solve the inequality, then graph the solution set. Now make sure you write down this correctly. Now my whole goal is to get the x all by itself in the middle. So what do you need to get rid of, or what do you need to move? I need to move the 3, correct? So if I add 3 in the middle, I've also got to add 3 on the left, and I got to add 3 on the right. So you've got to add 3 in every location. What do I get on the left side? 1. What happens to your -3 and +3 in the middle? It cancels, and it leaves me with x. On the right, what do I get? 7. So this is what I need to graph. So I'm going to start with my 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now from the first slide, can somebody tell me what point I'm going to start at? 1. What type of dot are you going to use at 1? Closed. Okay. Then I need you to go ahead and finish that one, and then I'll get right back with you. So, yes, honey? Yeah. Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, it says test results. It should be on the education side, right below where it says and it says school building results. Okay. So then now, what type of circle do you use at 7?
Open.
Open, and then what do you do?
Fill
Fill in between. So pretty straightforward? Okay, let's go ahead and look at the next one. Oh, yeah, you're right, great. It's 2 inequalities. And I'll actually show you a way that I do this so that I don't necessarily have 3 lines. So how am I going to solve my first inequality? What am I going to do here? Add 3, and this is what we looked at in section 1. So now I get y to be greater than or equal to -4. Now I'm going to go ahead and solve my second one before I graph. Let's look at the second one. What am I going to do here, guys? Add 3 again. So I get y to be less than or equal to what? -1. So really, I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to go -1, -2, -3, -4. Now I know some of you maybe don't like writing 3 lines, right? So I'm going to show you a way that I do this without the 3 lines like we did in the first one. The very first one says y is greater than or equal to -4, correct? So what type of dot do I use at -4? A closed. So look at what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a closed dot right here, and I'm going to shade this way. So notice that way then I don't have to do 3 lines if I don't want to. This is kind of my shortcut way that I used to do in high school. So let's look at the next one. Y is less than or equal to -1. What type of dot at -1? And which way am I going to shade? To the left. So now what's going to happen is on the number line that I have labeled, I'm going to put my final answer. What can you tell me my final answer is going to look like? Okay, closed on -4, closed on -1. What am I going to do? Shade in between. So see how that works that way? Then you don't have to necessarily do 3 full number lines. Questions? Okay, let's look at this one. What are you going to do? Subtract 7, and I'm going to subtract 7 on both the left and the right as well. Because remember, our whole goal is to get r alone. On the left, what do you get? is less than, or equal to 3. So I can see my key points are -1 and +3. So what is my answer going to look like? Perfect. And then what am I going to do? Shade in between. Nice job, guys. You've done a great job on those. Okay. All right, so now we're going to get into a union. And if you remember when we started, I said there were 2 words, and the other word was or. Well, now we're going to look at the or. Or means union. So now with or, it doesn't have to be both. It doesn't have to be shaded both ways. Now the thing with or is there's only one way to write an inequality with or, and that's this way right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and have 3 lines. So I've got my -1, I've got my 0, I've got my 1, and I got 2. Now once again, when we go through and solve these, you're not going to have to put all 3 number lines. You can use the shortcut that I showed you. So x is greater than 2. What type of circle on 2? Open, and I'm going to shade to the right. Okay. Next one, x is less than or equal to -1. Closed, and I'm going to shade to the left. Now, or is different because with or, it doesn't matter if it's in both. It just matters that it is shaded. So when I'm doing my or statement here in orange, I am looking to see if it's just somewhat shaded up above. So is the left arrow shaded? Yeah, it's shaded in the blue, so I'm automatically going to shade that because it just has to be in 1. Okay? Is it shaded till it gets up to -1? What happens at -1? Stops. Okay? Is it shaded anywhere in here? Is it shaded at 0? 1? Is it shaded at 2? Yeah, I've got an open circle. Is it shaded now to the right of 2? Yeah, because it's shaded in the purple. So with or, I'm going to get something that looks like that. It's not necessarily going to be what's in the middle. It's probably going to be what's on the outside. So let's look at a few examples of that, and then we'll call it good for today. Okay, solve each inequality, graph the solution set. -2m plus 7 is less than or equal to 13, or 5m plus 12 is greater than 37. Now notice, these 2 inequalities are a little more in depth. They're going to take a little more work to solve. What am I going to do first here? Subtract 7. So I get -2m to be less than or equal to 6. What do you do now? Divide by -2. Now, when I divide by -2, that should kind of set off warning bells. You got to switch the sign. Okay, so I really get m to be greater than or equal to 3. Let's solve the next one then. What am I going to do first here? Subtract 12. So I get 5m to be greater than 25. What do you do now? Divide by 5. Very good. So m is greater than 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the purple. So I notice I've got some key points, and my key points are 3 and 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Oh, -3. Yep, good call. Okay, so -3. There we go, -3. Okay, so m is greater than or equal to -3. Means I'm going to have what type of circle at -3? And I'm going to shade to the right. Okay? What about m is greater than 5? At 5, shade which way? To the right. So if you remember, it just has to be shaded in 1. So is the left arrow shaded? The left arrow here is shaded in one of them? No. What's the first thing that's in 1? First thing that's shaded? -3. Is it shaded at -2? -1? 0? 1? 2? 3? 4? 5? Because 5 is still shaded in the purple. If you're thinking it's not shaded in the blue, it's still shaded in purple. What about the right arrow? Is the right arrow shaded in at least 1? Yeah, so there you go. Here's what your answer looks like. Questions? We've got one more we're going to look at, and then I'll give you your assignment. Okay. So on this one, you're going to notice that the first one is already solved, so you don't have to do anything. We have to solve the second one, so what do you need to do? Subtract 2. So I get 4x to be less than 8. What do you do now? Divide by 4. So x is less than 2. So my key points are 2 and 9. It's not a -4. Okay? So there's 2. So let's start with the x is less than or equal to 9. What type of circle at 9? Shade which way? Okay. X is less than 2. What type of circle at 2?
Open.
Shade which way? So now my solution. Is the left arrow shaded?
Yes.
Yes. Is 0 shaded? 1, 2, 3. Where do I stop shading? 9. There you go. So that's the process you're going to use to solve these. Questions? What are the two key words? And and or. And means what? Big word.
Intersection.
Intersection. Or means union. Good job. Okay, so your assignment. Pages 308 through 309, 6 through 15, and 18 through 27. Okay, 6 through 15, 18 through 27.